Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My very able colleagues on the dais, Mrs. Josna Sitling, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Skill Development, Delhi, Mr. S.S. Sandhu, Principal Secretary, Skill Development, Government of Maharashtra, Mr. Mukund Rajan, Chief Ethics Officer, Tata Group, Mr. Atul Bhatnagar, I think he's on his way. He hasn't come in yet. Mr. Balasubramaniam, CBO, BSc, my colleague from Indian Merchant Chamber and Chairman of the Skill Development Council, Mr. Bijay Sahu, under whose leadership this event is being organized, and my colleague, Mr. Pradhan, who has given a great support in organizing this event. I will not get myself engaged in throwing some statistics and some of the contents that lots of experts, they are here, and I think I'm not qualified to talk in depth and details the various statistics and the challenges that we have. But why skill development? Why CSR has been clubbed with this? And why skill development is being raised again and again today? I think I would start with the skill development is not new phenomena. It is nothing that new that India has not seen before. But this was identified as a challenge, as a need, but it was also dealt in a very different methods, in a different, keeping different age and time period in mind. But today, why skill development? I don't think this is limited to only social challenge that we are talking about. Everybody talks about that we need around 10 million new jobs every year, and how are we going to generate the talent? On one hand, yes, this is a reality. On one hand, the employers are struggling to get the right talent. On another hand, we have millions of unemployed, both graduates and undergraduates, students. So there is a big mismatch. Something has definitely gone wrong, and that needs the corrections. This is not also an economic challenge alone. Yes, it's a reality that there is an economic angle to this as well. One of the biggest good things have happened to India, and this is my personal view, that 3-4 things since I am born in India, I mean since I've been growing, 3-4 nice things has happened to India. And one thing I remember was that we won with confidence the 1971 war. I don't know, the new generation may not even remember. After Second World War, if there was one war that brought some conclusion and created a different geography through war, was 1971 war, and that gave the birth to Bangladesh. Another nice thing happened is in 1983, to me, that India won first time the World Cup cricket. And remember, this is not a joke, this is not a sports. I come from a generation where very few nice things used to happen. So these were very, very memorable 2-3 things have happened. Another nice thing has happened in context of economy was that IT sector, the back office, the IT technology, what India and Indian entrepreneur brought glory to India, and that put India into a world platform. And India started getting some recognition was the IT sector. Now, that IT sector's one of the things was besides the skill that entrepreneur developed, and that there are lots of books and there are a lot of research papers, how they did what they did, TCS, Mr. Ram Dorai, what he did, to establish, there's a lovely book to that, what Mr. Azim Premji did, what Mr. Narayan Murthy did, what Patni did, but there are a lot of struggle. And I must salute them in that era, though they had a vision, they had a passion, they had very limited resources, and more than that limited resources, what they had was a very limited talent. And how they must have, struggled, how they must have pulled all these resources, how they transformed the raw material, the raw talent into a specific sector needed talent. That must be a case study by itself. And this is without government intervention, thankfully. One of the reasons that that sector grew and it reached to its level was perhaps no intervention from government. So I think these were the 3-4 nice things that happened. Now what has happened is that lately and post nationalizations, 2 things have happened. One is that our demography is that around 65% of our population is below 35. Somebody will say 50% is below 25 age. There is a big different citizens demography that we have. All this generation have not seen what I have said, 1971, 1974, and they don't care. Sorry to say this. What they care is my well-being, how do I progress my livelihood, how do I pursue my career. They need job. Industry needs talent. This bridge is big. And this is where I think very correctly our Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, moment he took over, has started raising the slogan of skill development. What he did by doing this was raise the profile. He brought this item on the national agenda, on the central table of every board, which is so important to this country. Now, whether it is good for your, this is good as for your family. We are struggling even today. I mean, most of here are Mumbaikar. We have, of course, lovely guests from Delhi and other places. I don't know Delhi, I can't speak about it. But as a Mumbaikar, even to get a domestic servant is a struggle. To get an able driver is a struggle. To get the right assistants and secretary is a struggle. Health sector is struggling. The IT sector is struggling. The competitive advantage that India has was a cost effectiveness. I think in lack of, forget adequate, oversupply, adequate supply is also a big challenge. And if we do not, I don't think we need adequate supply of the talent. What we need is an oversupply. And that is very important up to an extent, because you can never have adequate supply. Either you will be undersupplied or you will be oversupplied. I would rather live with oversupply. Oversupply will do two things. It will give choice to employer and it will keep the cost under control, which is very important. So it's absolutely a commercial agenda which should be on the central table of every board meeting, every planning stage, and it is also a social agenda. How can we not generate enough jobs? And I come from insurance and financial services background. And what I find is that every year we, in my little company of 400, I need every year around 80 to 90 insurance qualified, trained talent. We are not able to get even 30, 40. Our industry, you know, the biggest supply came from public sector. The life insurance, general GI part of it. Then the New India had a vision, and New India, Mr. B.K. Shah was one of the key driver. He started recruiting that what you call is an apprentice officer, and something that SBI started doing it. Thereafter, the first thing, there is a once nearest example that what we have about skill development was that government started way back in 80s, something called a 10+2 course in insurance. So what you have is after 10 pass students, those who wants to join this sector, 2 years intense programs were given, and then they were recruited in the industry. But that was also disconnected. That was also discontinued. We at IMC, we just been to Germany on the eve of Prime Minister's visit to Hanover. India was a partner of Hanover this time. We had opportunity to have a glimpse of Mr. Modi and Merkel coming together, and there was discussions also on the skill development, and none other than Mr. Mistry, the head of and CEO of Tata Group, was also part of the panel, along with Baba Kalyani and others. So this matter is getting a momentum, and that is, I must say, is a very, very important. I think it is an extremely important agenda, cannot be ignored. If we delay it, what we will do is we will do disservice to our own company, our own well-being, and social fabric as well. What we saw in Germany was an amazing outcome. We all have learned that Germany has a very different vocational courses. We have heard about Japanese model, but we had an opportunity to go as closer as was possible to Germany. And we visited Siemens plant, we visited Mercedes plant, we also been to the Porsche, and we also went to the Stuttgart. And I was just sharing my little bit of experience with Dr. Rajan, and what we found was that meeting and talking and seeing the presentations of all these institutes, one thing came out very clearly was that 70 to 80% what they were talking was quite common. So what has happened is that it has institutionalized, it is standardized. And what we learned was that this vocational training program, and what does it mean? That the new talent, the young talent were recruited rather than selected for training. They were recruited as a job seeker, and then the jobs were assured and the training on the site was given. And what we were told was that around 70 to 80% of that talent, they joined as a trainee and then they retired in the same company. And now that makes Germany so good, so perfect, and they got such a lovely talent. So that institutionalization is needed. What we have all very successfully identified this topic as a skill development. I only hope that not only today is one step forward, is one importance from our side, but I think we collectively, wherever we are working, whatever we are doing, whatever are our responsibilities, if we can invest some of the time and money in skill and skill development of the talent. Indian corporates are often criticized that we are not spending enough on research and development. I would say, well, that's another area and another topic by itself. But how many companies and how many corporates are even investing in their own training for their own good? You don't have to be socially conscious. You have to do it for your own self. And that is important for developing a competitive environment. It is important for you to stay in the market. This is a globe is shrinking. Everybody is competing in every service and every product that you are making. The 3D is going to transform the way we are going to do manufacturing. The IT sector has already transformed the way we are providing services. If we have to compete China, if we have to compete tomorrow's Japan, I think we will have to take a few steps forward. Leave that alone. I think we are way behind. We will have to take few steps forward. We will have to invest in the talent pool. We will have to be also investing in mentoring. One of the criticism, my observation is that people throw money. They go for certificate. They go for talent training and formal training. What is lacking is mentoring. And I see more successful people, more senior people, they feel more insecure. And I don't know why. You know, they don't want to transform their knowledge and their experience to the next generation. I think that's what we need. More you give, this is one thing that if you translate and transform your knowledge and your skill to next generation, we all will prosper together. Mr. Sahu and his team has taken a lot of pain to articulate so many important items, so many agenda, so much of a subjects, and it was not easy to get who is who as a panelist and speaker. So I must thank all the speakers, all the sponsors, and Mr. Sahu and his team, and all of you to come in such a large number early in the morning on working day to be part and participants of this. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.